My family hijacked my vacation plans for my golden sister and her kids. But this time, I had a secret escape plan of my own. Reddit, I need your thoughts on this. I need help with my family situation, which has been collecting for decades, but it is a long one. Despite growing up in a relatively normal suburban Massachusetts home, I, 35 female, have always struggled with this situation. My older sister Kate, 42 female, has always been the golden child. Since I can remember, our house has served as a shrine to Kate's life, with every wall filled with her accomplishments and every conversation centered on her. My parents were too busy preparing for Kate's college interviews to buy me a cake for my 10th birthday, which I remember vividly. They even tried to pass off Kate's leftover graduation cake, which still bears her name, as my birthday cake. Kate's achievements overshadowed every major event in my life as I grew older. Kate had recently joined the debate team, so my parents were unaware that I had made the honor roll in middle school. Kate had a college campus visit scheduled, so they were unable to attend the ceremony when I won a local high school painting competition. Knowing that sharing my triumphs would only result in a fleeting, "That's nice, dear," before the subject of Kate was brought up again, I learned to celebrate them alone, in my room. Even our things revealed our family's priorities. Kate's room was always outfitted with cutting-edge technology, fashionable attire, and everything she required for her numerous extracurricular activities. My room, on the other hand, was overflowing with used clothing. When I indicated an interest in taking music lessons, I had to make do with Kate's discarded violin, old clothes, and school materials. I had difficulty playing the violin since it was too large for me. "We already spent so much on Kate's piano lessons this year," my mother said in response to my plea for a more appropriate size. Throughout high school, the trend was maintained. Kate received individual instruction for her SATs, so I had to study with borrowed library books. My parents took out a loan to help her buy a car for college. They encouraged me to take the bus if I needed help getting about. Kate's wants and desires were central to all financial decisions, family discussions, and Christmas preparations. It was quite challenging in college. Kate graduated from a prestigious university with our parents' full support. When it came time for me to attend a public school, they could only agree to pay half of the tuition. They clarified, "We're still paying off Kate's student loans. You'll need to figure out the rest on your own." To make ends meet, I worked 2 part-time jobs while a student, usually dozing off over my textbooks. Kate, in the meantime, was starting her career in a position that our parents had helped her get through their contacts. Kate got married 7 years ago, and everything changed, or rather, worsened. For a year, our entire family focused solely on the wedding. My parents took out another loan to pay for her dream wedding, which featured a beautiful gown, an expensive location, and over 300 guests. Despite their reservations about the payments, I recall hearing them in the kitchen one evening, insisting that nothing was too good for Kate's special day. Was there any doubt that she was her maid of honor? I was expected to organize bridal showers, plan a luxurious bachelorette party, and handle any small issues that arose. When I expressed my stress about handling these commitments while working a full-time job, my mother urged me, "Don't be selfish, Elizabeth. This is your sister's special time." The twins followed. Kate's parents were overjoyed when she announced she was having twins. Even though they were still repaying their wedding loan, they contributed to the down payment on a nearby home. On the day they signed those contracts, I saw them spend their retirement funds, which they said they couldn't access when I needed help with college. They argued that this was different. "This is for our grandchildren." So, who was the default babysitter? Yes, I do. It began as occasional babysitting. The request, "Elizabeth, could you watch the boys for a few hours?" became a weekly practice, then expanded to evenings when they had appointments. My parents supported this arrangement, saying, "This is what family does." Kate and her husband Jack, 43 male, felt that I would always be there to help them if I tried to object. Even while I adore them, the twins, who are now energetic 7-year-olds, are exhausting. Every weekend, Kate drops them off unexpectedly at my house, generally under the guise that she needs me time or has important errands to run. The lads run wild, turning my modest apartment into a disaster. Kate begins crying about how overwhelmed she is when I try to establish limits or request ahead notice, and my parents criticize me for not being supportive. I worked a lot of overtime to establish myself in the marketing sector. I just received a promotion offer that involved longer hours and more travel. My mother said, "But what about the twins? Your sister needs you here." Kate added, "You can't take that job, Elizabeth. Who will help me with the boys?" When I brought up the subject during a family dinner in the hopes of earning some compliments. It appears that my time, profession, and life are entirely irrelevant. My father adds, Family should come first, Elizabeth. My mother constantly says, your sister has 2 children to look after. You don't know what tired really means. When I tried to explain how overwhelming it all is, Kate accused me of being envious of her life and her children. She said, you're just bitter because you're still single, as if my marital status was the primary element determining my worth as a person. Following a particularly stressful weekend with the twins, I decided to finally indulge myself to a beach trip last month. They successfully ruined my laptop and left permanent marks on my couch. I knew I needed a getaway. I discovered a modest, unpretentious resort in Florida that was excellent for a relaxing getaway. My mother's eyes shone as I mentioned it at our weekly family dinner. Oh, that's perfect. We should all go together. The twins would love the beach. Kate had started organizing events before I could protest. She said, you can take the boys swimming while Jack and I have some alone time, as if my trip would automatically convert into a time for them to be cared for. Of course, in exchange for my aid with the twins, my parents offered to upgrade my reservation to a higher-end resort where they could all stay. Totally disregarding the fact that this was supposed to be my vacation, they began planning activities and vacations based on what the twins wanted. I made a decision that changed everything as I was lying in bed that night. I booked a separate resort on a quiet tiny island. I kept the change of plans a secret from everyone. I quietly began preparing by arranging time off work, packed my belongings, and ensuring that my emergency fund was available. Even though I knew it was dishonest, I couldn't take it any longer. At the airport, they will be removed from us. While I board my flight to another city, they will be flying to Florida. I have disabled location sharing and am prepared for the inevitable criticism. Yes, I understand that there will be drama. Yes, I understand that they will be upset. However, I want to prioritize myself for the first time in my life. For 35 years, I have been the dependable sister, the ideal daughter, and the always available aunt. To meet my family's expectations, I sacrificed my social life, weekends, and personal needs. I was frequently babysitting, so I missed out on dating opportunities. I have denied opportunities that may conflict with the demands of my family. To be available to them whenever they need me, I have placed my personal life on wait. Right now, I'm fleeing a lifetime of exploitation, not just a trip. I aim to use this as a turning point to establish clear boundaries with my family, and possibly even take a complete break from them. I'm tired of always making sacrifices, being the family's pillar of support, and being the reliable backup plan. Reddit, what should I do? Am I exaggerating? Is it acceptable for me to want something more for myself, or should I simply follow their lead and accept my place in the family? Update 1. I sincerely appreciate all of your assistance and guidance. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'd like to describe how everything turned out. Although everything went as planned, the day at the airport was more emotionally charged than I had expected. I purposely chose a check-in station that was far from my family's location when I arrived early. I saw everyone pass through the terminal's glass walls. Jack checking their reservation details, my parents looking excited, Kate handling the twins, and Kate dragging luggage. As soon as they began to make their way to the check-in counter, I quietly passed through security for my own flight. When they discovered I wasn't at their gate, my phone started buzzing. The perplexed text first appeared. Where are you? Our current location is gate B12. The concerned ones ask, how are you, Elizabeth? Has anything happened? Finally, the indignant ones. How could you treat us like this? The boys are in tears. Before boarding my flight, I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt an unusual combination of liberation and guilt. I had carried that guilt for the most of my life. However, what about freedom? It was exciting, and it was new. The bustling tourist spot they were headed to was nothing like the small island where my resort was located. Years of strain gone the moment I stepped onto the beach. There are no twins to babysit, no family issues to deal with, and no schedule to follow. The ocean, me, and absolute freedom. In fact, the first 2 days were hard. The twins would be having lunch now, and Kate would usually need help getting to bed at this hour, so I kept checking the time. It's difficult to overcome decades of indoctrination. However, something happened on the third day. I tried things I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I enjoyed every minute of my ridiculous, yet entertaining surfing lesson. When I registered in a yoga class by the beach, I met a group of other lone travelers. I even went on an unplanned dinner date with a wonderful man I met in the resort's coffee shop one evening. Even though it was a simple dinner, it served as a reminder that I might live a life apart from my family. The actual test came when I finally turned on my phone after 5 days. There were dozens of voicemails, 300 plus text messages, and 147 missed calls. My mother had even called my place of employment to declare a family emergency. Fortunately, I had previously informed my supervisor that I would be taking a vacation. Some voicemails were played for me. My mother's tone shifted from concern to angry to manipulative. "Elizabeth, how could you abandon your family in such a way? The twins are inconsolable. Did we raise you like this?" Even worse were Kate's messages. "You've ruined everything. The lads are diligent in their pursuit for Aunt Lizzie. I can't manage meetings on my own, so Jack had to reduce them." However, one communication struck a different tone. My father mailed it, although he seems unsure for once. "Elizabeth, please let us know you're safe even though I don't understand what's happening." I'd never heard him speak to me without immediately defending Kate or urging me to do more before. I messaged our family group chat only once. "I'm having a lovely trip and am safe. When I return, I'll contact you. Please give me room." I then ended the discussion and continued chatting to myself. In addition to reading bedtime stories to the twins, I also read 3 novels, spoke with other guests without interruption, and watched the sunset every evening instead of racing home to help with showers and sleep. These 5 days changed my life. I began journaling to process years of suppressed emotions. I ate dinner at a small beachside restaurant last night, and when the elderly waitress noticed I was alone, she asked if I was okay with my solitude. She said something that stuck with me after I explained my situation briefly. "Family is important, honey, but not at the price of your own well-being. Putting yourself first is sometimes the most daring thing you can do." When I returned home, I didn't immediately go to my place. Instead, I booked a hotel room for 2 nights to give myself time to prepare for the inevitable encounter. During this time, I updated my work emergency contacts, changed the locks on my doors, and, most importantly, put my boundaries in writing. I unintentionally liked a coworker's post on social media, which is how my family found out I was back. My mother and Kate arrived to my apartment building within hours, continually banging my intercom. Across the street, I watched them from the window of my hotel room, strangely disconnected from their brilliant performance. "I'm going to address them tomorrow, at a neutral coffee shop, not at my house, and I know it won't be easy, but I've prepared what I'm going to say." My hands quiver just thinking about it. But for the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself, and I know I'm doing the right thing despite the anxiety, guilt, and drama that will inevitably follow. I'll offer another update after speaking with my family, and I'm grateful that Reddit provided me the confidence to take this first step toward independence. Update 2. As planned, my family and I arrived at the coffee shop, and the situation became even more heated than I had anticipated. The visit at the coffee shop began sweetly enough. I arrived early and sat at a corner table where I could see the front door and the emergency exit, a habit I'd developed over years of anticipating family drama. My hands were shaking so terribly that I couldn't even grasp my coffee cup. My parents, Kate, and, surprisingly, Jack all showed up together, and I am relieved there are no twins. I lifted my hand and said what I had practiced before they began their scheduled speeches. "I'm establishing boundaries, and they can't be negotiated." The next 2 hours were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Kate started crying as she detailed how my absence had traumatized the twins, and my mother tried to inculcate guilt. "Following everything we have done for you." Unexpectedly, Jack attempted to mediate by proposing a solution in which I would only see the kids every other weekend. For the most part, my father sat quietly and anxious. Kate's statement, "You are being selfish. Family means sacrifice," was the defining moment. Something broke within me, and I said clearly but calmly, "Yes, family requires sacrifice, but it should be reciprocated. When was the last time you made any sacrifices for me?" The ensuing silence was deafening. I revealed everything for the first time. The years of being Kate's second best friend, the unfair financial treatment, and the persistent belief that my life and time were less valuable than theirs. I then showed them my calendar for the previous year, with every weekend reserved for babysitting and every holiday tailored to their needs. My mother attempted to intervene, saying, "But that's what aunts do." I answered by saying something I had never dared to utter before. "No, that is what paid babysitters do. And Kate, if you require this much assistance, perhaps it's time to consider employing one." My mother followed Kate as she raced out, and Jack lingered, apologizing profusely for taking advantage of my availability. After a long silence, my father added, "We never meant to make you feel this way. It was something, but not an apology." When they left, I followed through on my plan. I moved to a different part of town and got a new apartment, which is smaller than my previous one but in a secure building with a doorman who is aware of my situation. My new phone number is now only known to my workplace and a few close friends. Rebuilding my life from scratch was the most challenging component, not the moving or the planning. I had no meaningful hobbies and few close friends because I had spent years caring for my family. I began quietly, enrolling in pottery classes, joining a local reading club, and accepting dinner invitations from coworkers that I had previously rebuffed. It was a strange first weekend of true freedom. I did things I had never done before, such as staying up late, visiting a farmer's market, and spending hours browsing a bookstore. Kate did not send me an urgent text, Mom does not make guilt-tripping calls, and there are no requests for last-minute childcare. My family's reaction to my relocation was harsh but expected. When my mother tried to contact me through the company switchboard, they discovered that my new job does not allow personal calls during business hours. Kate even came to my office once, but security was alerted beforehand, and she wrote a tearful letter accusing me of destroying our family. Kate first protested to Jack taking the twins to weekend events, but she has subsequently accepted the little but significant change. He apologized by email for his role in making the situation possible. My parents are having a difficult time adjusting. Dad periodically texts, typically in an embarrassing attempt to strike up a conversation, and Mom alternates between violent outbursts and frigid silence. She left a voicemail last week expressing, "When you're done with this rebellion, we'll welcome you back." This is not a phase, and she doesn't understand it. This is my new reality. My boss appointed me to handle a large new project after noting the difference in my productivity and attention due to the absence of frequent family disruptions at work. For the first time in years, I'm casually dating, but I'm taking things slowly. Internally, there has been the largest shift. I no longer have the continual background anxiety that I had for years, and I've been exercising more frequently, improving my nutrition, and sleeping better. According to my therapist, yes, I have finally started therapy. I am beginning to recover from what she calls chronic familial stress syndrome. Last weekend, the twins sent me a gift that included handcrafted notes expressing how much they miss me. Even though it was bittersweet, I remained resolute. I carefully wrote them back to let them know that, while I love them, I need some time to look after myself. I had to write it even though Kate is unlikely to read it to them. "You seem lighter now. You look years younger," said an old acquaintance when I saw her yesterday. She is right. Despite the angry texts, emotional manipulation attempts, and residual guilt, I feel lighter and more emancipated. Respect for personal space, acceptance of one's own needs, and reciprocal assistance, rather than merely one-sided sacrifice, are all components of true love. I'm discovering that family love shouldn't seem like a prison sentence. My new flat will be 1 month old next week, and this is the first time I've ever dared to host a little housewarming celebration, with only a few friends from pottery class, book club, and work. There are no expectations, drama, or family, just people who accept me for who I am. I'll post another update soon, and I'm grateful to Reddit for providing me the confidence to make a life change. Update 3. Completed update. It's been a life-changing 3 months, and I'd like to share how it all came together. The confrontation I had been dreading and anticipating arrived last week when my father unexpectedly came up to my place of employment. His method was distinct from Kate's emotional manipulations or my mother's previous frenzied attempts. When he asked if we could have lunch together, he was composed and even resigned. We met at a tranquil restaurant near my employment, and for the first time in my life, he recognized me as his daughter, not Kate's sister or the family's backup plan. He said, "You look healthy," in a shocked tone. Happier. The fact that he hadn't seen my dissatisfaction in years weighed hard on the observation that remained between us. The family had offered him a proposal, and they were willing to make sacrifices. If I agreed to reclaim my role in the family, I could have every other weekend off. He went on to remark, they'd even pay for my time with the twins, as if earning money from the commitment would make it more appealing. As I looked across the table at him, I knew they still didn't get it. They saw my freedom as a bargaining tool rather than a basic right. "Dad," I answered, "I am not bargaining for my independence. I am living it." The talk that followed was the most frank I've ever had with my father. I detailed how their relentless focus on Kate had damaged me emotionally as well as practically, and I told him about things he had forgotten or never noticed, dreams, accomplishments, and birthdays. His answer was unusual. He sat for a long time in silence, not providing the usual defense of their judgments. Finally, he stated, "We believed we were doing what was best for our family. We never realized how much we were hurting you." Although it wasn't an apology, it was the first time I'd been acknowledged. When he inquired about my new life, that was the genuine turning point. He listened for the first time as I explained my pottery lessons, my job advancement, and the new acquaintances I had made. Despite its flaws, I showed him images of a vase I had produced. I was stunned by what he said next. "You seem to have built a good life for yourself without us." The realization and anguish in his voice were genuine. We agreed at the end of lunch that nothing would ever be the same again. He gave me my first genuine embrace in years as he said to me to leave. I hope someday we can be part of your life again, but on different terms. That exchange appeared to spark a final bout of family turmoil. Kate has been making passive-aggressive remarks about selfish sisters and broken families on social media because she feels deceived by our father's approval of my decisions. After learning about our lunch, my mother launched a new round of emotional attacks, informing family members that I require an intervention because I am having a breakdown. Their actions, in my opinion, are an attempt to keep control over someone who has finally earned their freedom. The difference is that none of it has the same influence on me as it had before, and my new life has given me a new perspective. My new apartment looks like home now, with my attempts at pottery and images of my chosen family, friends who value my independence and respect boundaries, adorning the walls. I've begun training my less experienced coworkers at work, breaking the vicious cycle of poisonous support that had long entrapped me. My relationship with time has altered the most. I can spend my weekends as I want. I've started learning Spanish, joined a local hiking group, and even began dating someone who respects and loves my boundaries. For the first time, I'm living a life that reflects who I am rather than what my family expects of me. Last Sunday, the twins sent me a handwritten card that was clearly prepared under supervision. It was packed with terrible remarks about how much they miss their aunt. Previously, this would have sent me into a dark spiral of uncertainty and remorse. Instead, I reacted with a loving yet forceful letter, expressing that while I may not be as active in their daily lives, my love for them has not changed, and that sometimes adults need to look for themselves. My therapist says I'm experiencing post-traumatic growth, which means that instead of simply moving on from the past, I'm developing something more strong and wholesome in its place. She's helped me realize that I'm not to blame for my family's dysfunction. The most recent development occurred yesterday, when Kate's husband Jack phoned me to inform me that my attitude has resulted in changes in their family, not to lay blame on me. They have finally hired part-time help to help with the twins, and he has been a more involved dad. Jack believes it is best for everyone, but Kate is having difficulty adjusting. As I write this final update, I'm sitting in my home office, preparing for a business trip next week, something I could never have done in my prior life. Behind my desk, there's a framed quote that relates to my journey. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is set yourself free. I'd like to thank everyone who backed me and followed my story. You gave me the confidence to make my own decisions. If you're wondering if people in similar situations are selfish for wanting their own lives, remember that you're not. Being free is not selfish. Treating oneself is not mean. And establishing boundaries is not a sign of treachery. I have no idea how my relationship with my family will evolve in the future. Perhaps one day we will discover a different form of connection, one founded on mutual respect rather than duty. In the meanwhile, I'm focusing on maintaining the life I've created, including my friendships, interests, profession, and, most importantly, my sense of myself. This is not the end. It is only the beginning. For the first time in my life, I'm excited to see what happens next. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.